So we have third question, again 2014. Right? What does ethics seek to promote in human life? Similar. What does ethics seek to promote in human life? Why it is all the more important in public administration? Why it is all the more important in public administration? Right? So obviously it seeks to promote betterment, it seeks to promote growth. You write few things, you'll understand, right? Right. Ethics seeks to promote a meaningful life. A meaningful life. A meaningful life. A human existence which understands the importance of right action, right conduct, right intention, and can distinguish it with the wrong. The purpose is to improve one's and others' lives. It's not just your life, one's and others' lives. So as to create a greater good in the society. Since time immemorial, there has always been a conflict between the nature and the human needs and wants. It has somewhere created greed, lust, and a perpetual want in the human beings. This has influenced our approach towards social life. That means how we are going to stay together. Approach towards social life, which generally tends to become selfish and self-interested. Both are different things, but it tends to become that way. No doubt, philanthropy, empathy, justice, equity, are equally visible in the same society. In the same society, but always there is a fear of individualism overpowering the collectivism. To overcome these tendencies of injustice, wrongdoings, and exploitation, etc., the need for ethics emerges. Need for ethics emerges. Whether it is Socrates, right? We'll talk about the moral philosopher, but right now you can just put it there. Whether it is Socrates or Plato or virtues of Aristotle or for that matter the moral king from the Arthashastra, there has always been an emphasis on searching and providing an ethical framework which will guide the people in power and the well-off in the society. Right? So this is what the ethics seeks. This is what the ethics wants. Right? And it tries to align your individual behavior with the social behavior, the desirable social behavior. How your individual behavior must conform to the social behavior. Right? And how there must be a benchmark for the social behavior also. So from family to society to the government, all of them somewhere are bound in a chain, the chain of ethical conduct. Somewhere are answerable to each other in this system, okay, or in this systematic framework of what we call the ethical framework. And it is what the ethics seeks to promote. Well-being, right? General well-being, general prosperity, collective good, right? Protection of vulnerables, right? Justice. This is what ethics seeks to promote. Fine. So we'll start off with this. We'll talk about this. Now, why it is all the more important in public administration? Why? It's very logical now. Because public administration is a system which derives or which is using the authority. It may not have a direct authority, but which is using the authority provided by the government somewhere to govern or administer the society. Administer the society. Right? Are you getting this point? So it has the authority. So it becomes all the more imperative for the administration, for the public administration, which has the authority, which has all the opportunity to misuse this authority. which has all the opportunity somewhere to use the resources. They have huge public resources at their disposal. They have authority. Right? They have legal means. They have a legal cover. Right? They have a legal excuse for whatever they do. Right? Whether they engage in malpractices, whether there is a conflict of interest. So the public administration, the system, as well as the officials who are part of the system or people working in the system, they get enough opportunity to be corrupt. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So in the absence of any ethical and moral framework, in the absence of any code of ethics, not just code of conduct, in the absence of any moral responsibility towards the society, and what moral responsibility would be? That what has been decided by the law, we have to follow that. And somewhere we have to be the conscious of the fact that the law that we are implementing is equally applicable to everyone, and at the same time the law has the sensitivity towards those people who are not equal to the others. Right? That is what the idea is. So it becomes all the more because there is authority. Fine? There is opportunity to be corrupt. There are a lot of resources at their disposal. They have enough latitude, they have enough liberty to act and misuse the resources. Right? They may engage in nepotism, favoritism, they may lack neutrality. We'll talk about all that. Right? They may bypass the neutrality. They may tend to achieve their own goals. They may tend to be selfish. Right? They may violate the actual goals of the government, and somewhere create a distrust between people and the government. That is known as the trust deficit in governance, or governance deficit resulting out of trust deficit. And that is why RTI had come. That is why there is a need for citizen charter. Right? That is why there is a need for more public accountability of these people, or social audit needs to be conducted, needs to be made mandatory by law. Right? So you have to understand that way, that somewhere, fine, this logic is necessary. The ethical framework is necessary, fine, to be implemented here, because it's not necessary that all the answers will be given by the law. So when a question comes that you are an administrator and you had a lot of resources at your disposal, and let us say people, or you are allotting tenders to those people somewhere who are related to your relatives, or who are somewhere part of your kith and kin, in spite of the fact that kith and kin will do the best work, or they were probably the best bidders, they were the most legible or legitimate bidders, eligible bidders for it, still it raises a doubt against you, because there is a conflict of interest. So in their situation, they will experience those aspects. They will experience this moral test. They will have to go through this litmus test of morality every time they act. And that is why it becomes all the more important to be understood that in the public administration, right, their single decision will affect lakhs and lakhs of people. Their one wrong attitude, their one wrong conception of the problem, their one wrong decision may affect the larger lives of the people in the society. So imagine people who are into corona management or the COVID management, let's say health administration, hospital administration, district collector, resource distribution, food distribution, delivery of essential services. People who are involved in all this, right? They need to keep a close watch on their own actions. Right? And that is why long back Kautilya said that it is impossible not to taste the honey that is at the tip of your tongue. Impossible not to taste that honey that is at the tip of your tongue. Why? Because obviously, once you're in the middle of all this, once you're in the middle of this power, resource, this luxury, will it be possible for you to become an ascetic? Will it be possible for you to get disenchanted with this power and the glamour that comes with this public administration? And he also gives another statement, very important point, that it is impossible for us to find out how much water fish drinks. Right? So people who are in the part of the treasury management, financial management, or resource distribution, right? And likewise, it is very difficult for us to actually identify, right, to what extent the act of corruption has been done. Right? The auditors auditing themselves. Right? Who will guard the guardians? That is a big moral question, and that is why there is a need for ethical imperative. There is a need for code of ethics, not just code of conduct. And there is a need for not just a legal framework, but a moral framework. So a civil services law, right, along with a code of ethics, along with a code of conduct, all are necessary. And there must be an index of integrity. Second ARC talks about these ideas. Index of honesty, index of corruption. Second ARC talks about profiling, risk profiling of public servants. Risk profiling of public servants, okay, those who are prone to corruption, right? Those who are less prone to corruption but vulnerable, right? Those who are honest. Now you risk profile these candidates, and as per, or these public servants, and as per their profile, as per their biography, as per their background, you now allocate them to different services, or you impose certain restrictions or sanctions on them. So this is inevitable, right? Are you understanding this logic? Fine, great. Fine. So this is how this answer needed to be approached, right? What is the big deal in that? It's simple. Why do you have to think so much? Because if you are able to conceptually visualize things, and if you are able to interrelate it, fine, with some historical aspect, with some traditional values, with some traditional quotes, with some scholarly and theoretical understanding, with practical developments or practical happenings in the society, the answer will be very easy. Right? Now let's say the fourth question. One more, 2013. What do you understand by values and ethics? Simple again. What do you understand by values and ethics? In what way is it important to be ethical along with being professionally competent? In what way is it important to be ethical fine, along with being professionally competent? Fine. Now obviously you can define what understand by values and ethics. So values are the preferences. Fine. Values are the preferences, okay, towards certain things or certain entities. Right? So these values help us, okay, shape or orient ourselves towards certain things in a positive way or in a negative way. Right? Values somewhere also define our priorities in life. So values are orientations. Fine. Values are the, you can say, concrete orientations that we have towards certain things, towards preference of something or non-preference of something. and it is more or less something permanent in nature. So there are obviously two kinds of value system, like we talked about, transitional values and permanent values. How values are acquired? The means of socialization. Primary socialization, secondary socialization. Primary socialization through values, through culture, through religion, through traditions, through our informal upbringing that happens in the family, neighborhood, community. Right? The secondary values or secondary socialization that happens in the universities, college institutions, in the society that we see, experience. Right? So values are somewhere, okay, which shape our character and personality and our orientation, right? Which we hold dear to us, because it helps us decide things, it helps us choose things, it helps us, okay, develop an orientation towards certain things in life. Right? So eating veg or eating non-veg, that may be more of a habit. Right? But if you despise someone eating non-veg because you are a vegetarian and he's a non-vegetarian, and you have a value orientation towards non-vegetarian that it is somewhere criminal, it is somewhere violent, then that will be a value. Right? Whereas ethics is what? Okay, and values generally are individual, fine, they are generally shaped individually, fine. Though they may come from the collective aspects like religion, culture and all those things, but they are generally shaped individually, that is our individual value system. Right? But even family has a value system, but the carriers of the values are generally individuals. Right? Unless we talk about religious values, right? Unless we talk about community values, regional values. Right? But there also individual value will differ. Right? When we talk about ethics, ethics is more of a collective aspect. It is a collective framework. Right? It defines what is right or wrong, whereas value is more individually defined as right and wrong. Ethics is what defines what something should be, what ought to be. So you must have a value, but what that value should be actually, what is the right value, that will be provided by ethics. Right. So ethics एक report card है. Right? Ethics is a perpetual report card to which you look at, okay, what is my performance? Right? And what is others' performance? What exactly was desired from me? Right? So you can see ethics is the stick, or it is the yardstick of how you need to conduct. So our collective conduct or conduct, right? And conduct or act of doing something right or wrong is generally evaluated by the ethical framework. Right? So ethics helps us in understanding what should be done, what is the right action. Right? So it is a benchmark, it is a directive, it is a framework, right? Which we need to impose on ourselves. Right? Now, in what way is it important to be ethical along with being professionally competent? Obviously, okay, when you read Gandhiji and Gandhiji's 7 sins, right? Then there is one Samuel Johnson, a scholar. When you read their thoughts, they are saying that, okay, there is a very important aspect of competence without integrity, integrity without competence. Right? That means integrity plus ability, ideal situation. Right? But many times it is integrity without ability and ability without integrity. Right? For example, if I say that you are a good administrator and you can solve the problems very quickly, you are very sharp-witted, you are very wise, you are very intelligent. Right? You understand the facts, you understand the issues and the problems very well. Right? But what about, right? What about your orientation towards certain type of people? Let's say he say, I hate beggars, I hate poor people, I don't like that community. No. But I am competent. Right? Given the opportunity, most likely this person is going to harm the other community or harm those people whom he doesn't like. Right? Now this is a classic case of being competent but being unethical. Right? He willfully accepts bribes, but he does the work in a very extraordinary manner. And that is why he becomes, he gets more opportunity of getting bribed because he can do the task very well. Right? Another person who is very sincere, who is very wise, right? But he is not very competent. He is ethical, he is moral, he follows all the standards, he follows all the norms, plus he has his human values also with him. Right? He is ethical also, right? And he follows the law also properly. But at the same time, right, he is not able to solve the problems. He does not have rational thinking. Right. Now, who is to be trusted? Obviously, people with ethical behavior, with ethical perception are to be trusted. Right? But they may not be efficient. So this is like a classic dilemma. That what should I go for? If I have competent people, the organizations will flourish, the society will flourish, right? No doubt. But if these competent people are unethical, obviously the same growth, right? The same flourishment that I think of is not going to last for a long time. So it may not always be choice be that way, right? It is quite possible that those who are ethical can be made competent. And those who are unethical can be made ethical also. Yes. Because we don't say that these values, all the values are permanent. Right? So it is up to us whether do we have the ability to recognize what is missing and can we train people? Can we improve their behavior? Can we improve their attitude towards work? Can we improve their value systems? So obviously training, right? Exposure, experience, okay. Deterrence, punishment is also a very important factor. Laws, regulations, sensitivity, responsiveness, right? Empathy, very important. Right? So when you are doing something wrong, when you're taking bribe from somebody, fine, and you are creating benefits for someone illegally, then you must realize that if the same happens to you or your kith and kin, if they are put in the same position, then what will you feel or how will you feel? Fine? Simulations can be done. Case studies, right? They need to be exposed to the case studies. Right? They need to go or they need to understand the role plays, management games. There are so many things today which are there which can sensitize people, sensitivity programs, sensitivity training. Right? They can sensitize these people. So we may say that, okay, we may not always be confronted by such a classic dilemma, such a classic problem, but yes, if it is there, what is important? Fine, both are important, being ethical and professionally competent. And it is possible that we can make people who are professionally competent ethical, or people who are ethical, we can make them professionally competent. And if we have to go through a choice, then definitely we must choose people who are ethical, fine, because they will be made competent through training. They can be trusted with some other tasks. They would be a boon to the system. Competent but unethical people would be like termites. They would eat up the system themselves. Right? So rather than having a hollow system, right, with all the bright colors, with all the artificial deco, or you can say all that is, it looks good, all that glitters, but not being gold. Fine. So instead of that, we can obviously, build the system slowly, we can have people, ethical people, whose competency can be developed or they can be put to the task in different functions where they can prove their competency. Motivation, leadership, morale, there are so many aspects which can improve their competence. So somewhere aptitude, that is the competence, that is the skill, can be developed. Attitude is not easy to change. Attitude is a long-term predisposition. Right? Attitude is your way of thinking, which is more or less permanent. Whereas aptitude is your skill, which you can learn. Right? So you're good at music, aptitude. Right? But then you do not value music, your attitude. You think music is bad, your attitude. Right? You solve problem solving skills, extraordinary, aptitude. Right? But you have a distrust for a community, your attitude. Right? So you have to somewhere balance it, no doubt. And it becomes very important for the organizations, especially the government organization, civil services, public administration systems, to visualize how we'll make them competent. Right? I hope you have understood. So today's lecture was basically around these questions so that you become oriented to the questions that are asked, and over the time obviously we are going to do a lot of other questions also, okay, along with the case studies, no doubt. Fine, so they will keep coming, okay, but till now what we had done, we had to understand that, and for that questions were very important.